Test seems to be working. Okay, so for those of you that were here yesterday, we talked about a lot of different things. Today we're going to talk about different ways to buy and sell domains. And I'd like to thank the ladies in the booth because they've done excellent with translating. We even get to translate a comment about them, so that's good. They've been here. All right, so there's a few things to start with. One of the things is that I left a business card on everybody's table. I've talked to quite a few of you, but I don't think I've talked to enough of you. So when I say I'm approachable, I really mean it, and hopefully you guys will reach out and talk to me or ask questions about something, either after the show, during the show, whenever. I'm here to offer help and advice and anything I can do to help you guys grow, because I remember what I was like when it was starting out. Okay, so that covers the business cards. So before I really get started, think of a good name that you guys have or may want to register or something like that. And we'll talk about it a bit later, but also if you can email those names to Rick, R-I-C-K, at webcorp, webcorp.ca. I'm going to go through some of those names, and in the next 2 weeks I'm going to sell some of them. So I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to sell some. I'm not going to do them all because I don't have time to do 100, but I'll pick 3 or 4 or 5 and I'll go through, and obviously I'll talk to you about the price. But the minimum that I'll sell them for is about $3,500, just to show you that the system works. So pick one you may have spent $10 on or something. And if you could spend $10 and sell names consistently for $3,500 to $5,000, I think you guys would be quite happy. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do. I do sell a lot of names a week. Now, when you get an offer emailed to you, what's usually the first thing you do? You look at the offer, and if it's a good offer, you can tell a lot by the beginning point of the offer. If it's a $5, $10, or if they say, well, I'll give you what you paid for it, then you know probably it's not going to add up to much. But if you get a decent sized offer, like a reasonable offer, like $500 or a couple $100, at least you know right away that they're thinking it's not a registration fee, and you have a point at which you can start. One of the tips I give people all the time is if you get an email, and ladies in the booth, if I'm going too fast, just wave and I'll slow down. So if you get an email and it's from a Gmail or a Hotmail account, what I usually do is I respond and I say, look, I don't accept inquiries from Gmail or Hotmails because I want to know it's a serious business inquiry. Please send it from your business email. And then they'll usually, within about 30 seconds, send you an apology saying, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to insult you, I didn't know. But then I've got all their contact information, and then I can start to figure out who they are and why they want it. And I did it in a polite way that put the onus on them and made them look like the bad guy, and to stop hiding behind their fake emails. A lot of times I'll just take the front part of the Gmail address, if they do, before I send it back, and I'll Google that, because probably they've used this Gmail address or Yahoo address in another form or something like that. So I'll go track down who they are. It's very important for you to know who you're dealing with. It's the difference between selling a domain for too high or too low. For example, I got an offer on a domain name once on pw.com. Yeah, pw.com, or actually it's pw.ca. And I got the offer, and it was like they put $1,000 in, and it was through Sado, and I didn't want to be bothered with it, so I just responded $60,000, hoping that they would go away. Didn't work out that way. They accepted the offer and closed the sale. Had I done more research and I wasn't in such a hurry that day, I wouldn't have left so much money on the table. It was a big company called Price Waterhouse, and they own all kinds of banks and stock stuff and everything else. So I did make mistakes and I did leave money on the table. So you really have to do your research. And like I said yesterday, it's just as important to know when to wait and know when to sell, and you have to do research. So if you get a really good offer, I do a lot of negotiations for other people. So if you get an offer of $5,000 on a domain name and you're not comfortable negotiating, I'll take over the negotiations and I'll help you negotiate, and I'll always get a better number. I'll never lose the original offer, but I'll always work it up a little bit. So it's important for you to know that. It's important for you to know how to negotiate. And it's important for you to know what to do when you get those emails. Don't get all excited and respond back right away and say, I'd like this price. It's not all about that. Sometimes it's about giving them time. And I think we mentioned yesterday that I've had many, many deals where if I procrastinated just a little bit, the offers went up substantially. So usually you wait about 2-3 days before you respond. And the more urgent that they send you emails trying to get you to close faster or accept their offer, the more urgent you know it is that they want that domain name. So it's very important that you stay in control. You have the domain name. And I've never lost a sale because of just taking my time, but I have gotten a lot more money out of it for certain things like that. And when you are sending an offer, so let's say you're sending emails out now. So you want to make sure that when you're sending emails out, you're not doing it from your main company email address, and you're also not spamming out hundreds of thousands of emails. You want to find the 10 best candidates for the domain name that you're looking at selling, and you want to email those 10 and see what your results are. And you also want to use a program by HubSpot. I'll remember the name in 1 second, but it's a program by HubSpot, and what it does is it allows me to see who opened my email and if they liked it or not, and what they did with it. It's called Sidekick. So let's say I send an email out to Rick, and I say, Rick, I'm interested in this domain name. Are you interested in this domain name? I've got green apples for sale. I've sent it now to everybody in this row. Okay? I notice that Rick opens it. I notice that he opened it and she opened it. These two guys, they're not interested in green apples. But now I know that these three have opened it, so that's worth a call for me now to call them and contact them, because they'll know what I'm talking about. The other thing that I've noticed is that Tom has not only opened it, but he forwarded to his boss to look at because he thought it was a good idea. And his boss forwarded it to somebody else. So now I know they're really interested because it's gone through 3 people. That gives me a good clue that it's a good time to reach out to Tom and see what's going on. So this works with emails, and it will tell you, it works for all your emails, by the way. It'll tell you if somebody actually reads your emails or not, or if they just ignore them. It's good to know. But with this particular case, I know I got Rick's interest, and I got Tom's interest enough so he passed it on to 2 other people. And I know who those 2 people are, and I know that they also read it as well. So that information is very powerful when you're doing outbound email marketing.
Can you repeat the name of
the name was
Sidekick
by HubSpot. Sidekick. S-I-D-E-K-I-C-K.
There's also didtheyreadit.com.
Yeah, and actually I was told yesterday there's another one called didtheyreadit.com, which is an email service that gives you all kinds of stats. And it's also interesting to see the stats on who opens it and then change the wording a little bit and see if you get a better open rate. But seeing how many people open your email and seeing how many, if you get 2 or 3 out of 10 or 4, sometimes you'll get a really high rate. And then what I'm going to do is, I don't have enough time today, but I'm going to post a section on my website. It's going to be under adamdicker.com/tools. I'm going to post probably about 30 to 40 tools that I use, as well as emails, which is the important part, emails that I use to send to people, which tend to get opened and tend to send emails. A lot of it has to do with the subject line. What you put in the subject line is going to, for me even, it's going to dictate whether I open the email or not. So it has to be something that's interested and that's related to their business. Not something like, hey, great domain name, or this domain's for sale, or nobody wants a sales pitch. It has to be something interesting that's going to get their attention. So I'll put all that stuff under adamdicker.com/tools. Give me 2 days because it takes me like a day and a half to fly home, but I'll definitely do it. And then we talked, this is another trick that I tell people is, how many of you have sold domains? Okay. How many of you sold more than 1 domain? Great. Back order every domain that you sell. It's very important. I know it sounds stupid, but I have sold the same domain to the same person 4 times. Really. And every time he forgets to renew it, the price goes up and up and up. It started at like $1,200. The last time I think he paid $3,500. So back order your domains, because sometimes people, they either forget or they're not successful at what they were doing, and you get it back for a much cheaper price. It was one of the guys who runs one of the big registrars in Toronto said that was one of the best tips I ever gave him, because he was able to get some of his domains back at $10 and resell them again to somebody else. But it's very important. You'd be surprised how something silly like that could do. Use the software SendBlaster to send out your emails, because it goes through their SMTP server and your ISP service, your internet provider service won't ever know you're doing it, and you won't get spam with complaints and have your own ISP service shut down. Also, you want to keep it to small amounts. Some people go overboard and they send out 50 or 100. You just want to send out 10, 5, depending if it's a really good domain name or if it's not. And you want to stick to domain names. Again, this is really key, is that the easiest domain names to sell are the ones that a business could want. So there's no point in registering, I don't know, there's a lot of dumb stuff that people register. That other domain that was put up on the screen here that somebody thought was a premium because it was a 4-letter domain, whatever it wasn't a premium domain name. So you have to make sure that you're thinking ahead and that you're going through and that you're thinking like that potential business that would buy it. Not like you, and don't buy stuff that you like. Buy things that somebody else would want. And you want to stick to things that will benefit by being sold online. You're not going to sell a lot of pianos from Spain to New York, unless they're really high-end and hopefully you're not paying for shipping. But there's going to be lots of different products that sell better. There's also lots of industries that sell better. So the next thing we're going to talk about is something, skipping my list, but it's called lead generation. So lead generation is building a site, owning a domain name, and actually keeping the domain name, but capturing leads that you're sending to a business. So how this works is there's a company called Twilio, Twilio. They will sell you a local phone number for $1. You'll use that local phone number on your lead generation website. So let's say we had, the one that I did for some, I've done a lot, but the one that I did for somebody was DallasFencing.com. And it wasn't fencing like on guard, it was fencing like build fences. He had so many leads come in that he had to send the leads to a competitor just because he couldn't handle them all. And I was getting 20%, and a fence in Canada and the US is probably about $12,000 to $15,000. So I was making good money, like $2,400 for every lead that I gave him. So for things like that, you can make a lot of money. But again, you need a lead generation website, which I haven't told you the good news yet. You can email, look, let's do Lanelle this time, LANELLE@webcorp.ca, and we'll do a free lead generation website for everybody in the room. No charge, no tricks, no charge. Lanelle, LANELLE @webcorp, WEBCORP.ca. And if that's too hard, just say, put Rick or Adam, it's easier to spell. And we'll have to keep looking at my phone because I can't really say anything or talk to anybody. Now I know how some people feel when they come to my country. So if you're kind of feeling shy to come up to me because you think you only speak Spanish, your English isn't so good, don't worry about it. Come up, we'll figure it out with the translator. Don't be shy because it's very important that we get this chance to talk. I do a lot of these conferences, and for me the benefit is coming over and meeting all the people, learning all the customs, all the food, and actually helping people. But I can't help you if you don't take the first step. So we'll build you the lead generation site, no charge. Just send that email. I talked about acronym domain names, how to sell those. So I don't know how you say it in Spanish, but they'll translate it. In Google, we type in site : and then the domain name, and it tells you how many times the site has links. How many links are there for the site, and how many pages are indexed, how many pages are indexed. So with that, now you can type in all in URL, ALLIN URL, and a colon, and then whatever letters you want, like CMSI, four-letter acronym. So if I own CMSI.es, it would give me a list of every company that has those letters in their name as their name. And then I would know that those companies are a better target to sell those acronyms to. Acronyms are very easy to sell because everybody wants a shorter domain name. So let's go back to Twilio for 1 second because I didn't really explain the lead generation. What happens is you run a dental office, okay? You're an orthodontist, so you do braces and things like that. So I'll go in, I'll sign up on Twilio for $1. I'll get the phone number. You and I work out an ad deal. You pay me $120 or 120 euros for every customer you get because you charge $3,000. So I send you customers, and you're getting tons of customers, but one day you don't pay your bill. Sorry, you didn't pay your bill. Now I come over to Paul, and I own the number because I was forwarding it to you. You don't know why the calls stop, but I just cut you off on the phone number. Now Paul's paying me. He must be calling to make the arrangements now. And then I change it over to Paul. So now all the leads I was getting goes to Paul, and I don't lose anything by not getting you. And you'll want the calls back and the customers, so you'll eventually pay your bill. So I'm in total control of that phone number, and every call is recorded. So I know if I'm dealing with Paul, and I know he wouldn't, but if Paul lied and said he closed the sale, I listen to the calls, so I can hear if he actually did get the sale. So you're in control. Now you can do lead generation based on per lead, or you can do it per month or whatever you want. There's many different ways you can do it. Lead generation is great because you still own the asset and you're making money monthly off of selling those leads. It's a very good business to be in. Yes, sir.
How do you scale something like that? I mean, you're in your example, if I'm not mistaken, Adam, you're finding the people to do the. Oh, I need a microphone thingy. So the question, I know, but everybody else in the translator. The question was, how do you scale that operation if you can? Because you have to identify the dentist in this case who might be interested. You are not going to get a 100% success rate. You have to call a number of them, contract with them, etc. How many times can you repeat this?
So I have a lot of interesting things that I'm going to post in that tools area. So I have brochures, postcards, flyers, everything I possibly need to get you interested as a dentist and to get your other clients interested to do mailers. It's called offline marketing. So I've got tons of stuff to get you interested to make it really easy for you. So it's not going to be very hard. Now, how do I find the dentists, right? That's your question. So there's a piece of software called Scout Places. Scout Places, S-C-O-U-T, Places, P-L-A-C-E-S.com. I know it's in international languages, so it's going to have Spanish and other languages. What it does is it allows me to type in, I'm thinking where I am, Valencia, orthodontist, Valencia roofer, Valencia dentist. And it gives me every roofer in Valencia, so I'm looking at roofers now, every roofer in Valencia, and it gives me more powerful information than that, which is something I want to go into. It tells me whether they have a Facebook page, tells me whether they have a Facebook cover page, where they have a custom username or it's just a bunch of numbers at the end, and it tells me if the site is mobile. Based on that information, I can sell them, I can get them not only as a dentist, but I get a list of like 1,000 of them, so I can choose whoever I want. And basically what I'm doing is I'm saying, Paul, and when you go up and say, look, I want you to pay me for leads ahead of time, it doesn't work. But if I go up and I say, Paul, I want to send you new business, and I only want you to pay me for business that you get. Is that okay with you? Most people are going to say yes, because I'm not asking for anything up front. If I say, here's how much it is and here's how much I can do, we may discuss price a little bit. Maybe she doesn't want to pay 120 bucks. Maybe she'll pay 80. But it costs me nothing to get those clients to her. So that's one of the ways. But you can make a lot of money through selling Facebook covers, Facebook custom usernames, making sure a website is mobile. It's just the beginning. Scout Places does a lot more than that. I don't own the company. I don't make money on the software, but I do use it, and it's really good. Any questions before we move on a little bit?
Your website is Scott?
Scout, S-C-O-U-T, places.com, but I'm sure they've got Spanish software and everything else there too. If they don't, well, I'll learn Spanish and translate. We talked about, okay, so let's talk about park pages again, because there was a little discrepancy in the park pages panel yesterday. A developed site, even if it will always sell for more or perceived value, will be more than a park page. So I encourage people, yes, I think you should be parking your domains until you know what to do with them. But I also think that if you ever want to get more money, if I go to a park page, my instant reaction is, okay, I can buy this, it's just how much now? Somebody's going to sell it to me because they're parking for money, they want money. But if I go to a website and it looks like a business, I'm thinking in my head, okay, this is going to cost me a little more than it would as a park page. Perception is good, plus if you build a site, you're going to use real content and get content indexed and stuff like that. There's a site where you can buy content. So you're looking at, for a 700-word article, you're looking at $7 US, whatever it is. 1,000 would be $10 and so on, and they have different levels of content. The site you want to look at for that is something called thecontentauthority.com. Thecontentauthority.com. Excellent content, all fresh. They have thousands of writers in every language, and it's very good. You'll get some real good value out of that for sure. I get, for our sites, I can use it for all of our inbound and outbound sites. So yeah, you want to build a business. The other thing is, so we talked about the park pages, talked about the fact that it looks like it's more. The other thing you want to do is pick something that you're passionate about and try to build a business. It doesn't matter if it's a hobby, it doesn't matter if it's an idea you had. I wasn't successful at all the business ideas I tried, that's for sure. If you're successful out of 1 out of 10 and you get a win, you're going to make a good living and good money. The goal for most people, and especially domainers, is to get out from whatever desk job that you're doing full-time so you can do domaining. You can go from doing domaining part-time to full-time. So That's the goal. Some of you are lucky enough to be doing that now, but ideally, if you have a domain and you sell it, you only get money once. And it's quick money, it's a quick flip. Maybe you go on a family vacation, maybe you can pay down your mortgage. But if you have money off a site that's got a service or a product that everybody wants, you can then make $5,000 to $10,000 every month. And then that asset value, if you've got $60,000 a year in income, you may not be so quick to sell it, plus hopefully it's going to build. And there's lots of what you guys may think of are silly ideas that turned out into huge businesses. So, I mean, there's lots of cool things. So think about, it has to be something that you either really love as a hobby or something that you're very passionate about. Because if you really believe it and you really like it, you're going to build it. You're going to enjoy getting up in the morning. You're going to enjoy adding to it. And you're going to be helping people around you. Like, I love tennis. I was watching Nadal last night against Fabio Fognini. I couldn't understand a word they were saying because it's Spanish, but tennis is a great thing. I'll probably one day build a big forum on tennis, and it'll build up a huge amount of traffic. And who knows, it may be worth something someday, otherwise I'll just be doing something for fun. But there's lots of ideas and lots of business ideas, and don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't try something. You should do that. When I first got into domain names and I quit my full-time job, I was the vice president of Bell Canada, which is a big phone company. My parents thought I was crazy. I walked away from a big salary. I walked away from benefits. My wife thought I was crazy. Everyone thought I was crazy. But now who's laughing? I mean, so they don't say that anymore. So sometimes you got to take chances. You'll never get rich working for somebody else. And again, I'm not trying to sell you anything. You're just not going to get rich working for somebody else. So remember to check that adamdicker.com for the tools because it'll be there, say by about Thursday. Also, Google keywords were mentioned yesterday. There are benefits to Google keywords. So if you've got a domain name and you want to either sell it to somebody or you want to get lead generation for it, let's say you're looking for that dentist orthodontist in Valencia, or that gardener in Phoenix, or wherever you are. You type it in and you check out who all the advertisers are that are paying for those spots, and you can skip Google and go directly to the advertisers and say, look, you're paying $1.30 a click, and you can check through Google Keywords Planner. It's called the Google Keyword Planner, how much they're paying. Or you can check through SpyFu, which is a good tool that was shown yesterday. SpyFu will show you how much people are bidding on each keyword, and it'll show you how much their monthly spend is for all their keywords. So you can see a competitor and see that they're spending $300 a month on all their AdWords. It'll also show you what ads that they've written, and you can tweak or take some of those ads and use part of it or change it yourself. And it'll show you which ads of theirs converted the best. So it does a bit of the research for you. Portfolio analysis, something else that's important. If you guys are on the wrong path, you need to know right away. So whether it's me you use, whether it's somebody else, you need to find somebody who you trust who can review your portfolio, tell you what's good and what has potential and what you should drop. It's very important that you get on the right path as soon as possible, because otherwise you're going to continue to collect junk. I do portfolio reviews on domainsherpa.com every week. And the amount of crap that I see there is just absolutely ridiculous. It's very rare that we get a portfolio that's good, and I feel bad for these people because some of them are wasting thousands and thousands, $10,000, $20,000 a month on garbage. It's important. Everybody should have a buddy in this industry that they trust, somebody that they can bounce ideas off of, because sometimes at night I may be thinking something's good, and then I talk to a buddy of mine, I'll say, Paul, is this a good idea or am I crazy? Or am I paying too much for this domain name? Or is it a good deal? Am I selling for too little? You need somebody who knows the industry who can say, yes, Adam, I don't know what you're thinking. Unless you have a really good business idea, probably you're overpaying on this. So it's really important that you start to buddy up with somebody that you can trust, but not somebody when I call Paul and I say, Paul, I'm looking to buy pleasure.com. And Braden's interested too, and I scoop Braden on the domain name. So Paul and I are talking about a domain, and I have to know, because I tell Paul, he's not going to go out and buy it from under me, so it has to be somebody you trust. When I first started this industry, we used to do domain trades all the time, where I had a domain name and I would trade it with somebody and they would trade it with me. I got some good trades in that deal. One domain that I traded, I don't remember what I gave him. All I remember is the one that I got, I sold for $17 million. So I got a good deal on the trade. I don't know what he got, I forget. Analysis, I do them. Consulting, if you want any consulting, we're doing a special from the conference of the first 5 people. Instead of the first 5 people that sign up and use the code Europe 2015 on adamdicker.com at the bottom of the page, it's 50% off. So it's 4 hours, just me alone with you, going over everything for $9.99 off the website. Anybody have any other questions? Yes.
You've mentioned.
Hold on, he wants to give you the mic.
Sorry. You've mentioned two email tools.
Sandblaster?
Sidekick and Sandblaster, but can you use both at the same time?
So
I guess you can.
Sidekick will, well, Sandblaster is for sending out, and it has its own tracking tools in it. So it'll have all those tools already built in it, but that's for your outbound campaigns. The Sidekick works with your Gmail, your regular email, or whatever you're using, and it will tell you if they've opened your email. It'll even send you a text to your phone if you want.
So I guess you use one or another depending on the amount of emails you are going to send.
Well, I mean, it's good to have both, but Sandblaster will track all that stuff too. But I think the other one, Sidekick, is almost free. I think Sandblaster is about 99 US, so probably about $70, 70 euros, and I'm telling you, it's very worthwhile, and have tons of HTML templates already built in. And if you guys need custom ones, I'll post some of them there as well.
Yeah, in fact, we have this on our CRM, but but it's interesting to be able to use this functionality with your Gmail account or
yeah, it's very interesting. It works. I use it all the time. It works.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Somebody, come on, guys, get more involved. There you go. My Italian stallion.
So Adam, what do you think is the best approach? Is that when you want to buy a domain and you want to pay the lowest price?
I told you the story, I think, yesterday about leaving the message on the machine. Did you guys hear that story? Remember, or were you sleeping? I don't know. Anyway, it's a good story. When you want a good, it really depends. When you say you want a good price, when you buy a domain name, think about what you're going to use it for. So, if I want a domain name because I'm going to launch a business on it, and I know what the potential is to be like a $500 or $1 million business, I don't squabble too much about price. I just don't want to lose the domain because it's that good. But when I'm trying to buy something for, let's say, a friend who doesn't have the bottom line, I'll say, look, how much is the domain, by the way? What are they asking for? Make something up.
$3,000.
Okay, so the domain is $3,000, and you're willing to spend how much? In your mind, you figured out how much you want to spend.
Let's say 1K.
Okay. So I'm not going to lie to them and say I'm doing it for my child, or I'm doing it for a charity, or I'm doing it for whatever reason. You say, look, I would really like to buy your domain name. I understand that $3,000 is a fair price, but right now I can only afford to spend $1,000 on this domain name. And then I'll close it as if I'm leaving. I wish you all the best with your domain name. If you ever decide to drop the price, let me know. And then I just walk away. They come back. I had people come back 5 years later too. They come back, you'll get the domain name. Now, if you're really urgent for it, then you can't be so patient. It's up to you. It really depends on what your reasoning is. But I'll usually leave it open-ended on their side, and I'll make sure that they know it's not the end of the world if I don't get it, because I don't want to show too much urgency. But the fact of the matter is, domain names are not like houses, where there's 15 in a row and they all look the same. If I don't deal with you, I'll go buy this guy's house. If I want that specific domain name, I have to deal with that person, whether they're nice or whether they're a jerk. So the bottom line is you have to deal with them no matter what. But the best times to buy domain names, January, February, March. Best times to buy. The reason is people go away on holidays. They max up all their credit cards. They have lots of bills. They can't afford to pay anything off. They spend a lot of money on Christmas. January, everybody's broke. So that's when it's easier, and that's when they usually come back to January, February. It's a buyer's market at that point. Also, when they're planning to go away, November is also a good month, because then they're trying to raise money, October, November, to go away on those vacations that they can't afford, but they want to take money, and the spouse doesn't understand the domain money. They're just happy if they get enough money to go on a trip. So that happens a lot too. It could be a male, could be a female, doesn't matter. So those are the buying months. Summer's usually a little bit quieter. It slows down a little bit, although the last few years have been busy. And then it picks up again in April. Then people are buying and selling from April till about June, July. So I would just tell them, look, this is what I can afford to pay. It's a good domain name, and if you've got another buyer, great. But if he's at $3,000, he hasn't had many offers. So that's usually a pretty good indication.
Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, one more. Hi.
For somebody starting from scratch, what would you suggest?
It really depends on budget. I would suggest, so what I tell people is, no matter what budget you're going to use, start out with about 10 domain names. Don't start out with more than that, and don't spend more than that. And pick 10, again, that would represent businesses. And it could be from GoDaddy auctions, it could be from anywhere. And don't spend more than $100 per name. And then figure out what your budget is going forward, and then work on selling one of those domain names. So if you haven't spent more than $100 per name, your maximum in is probably about $1,000. Pretty safe. Now if you sell one of those for $3,500, you're plus $2,500. Put half of that $2,500 away, put the other half back into business, and keep building like that. And it doesn't take as long to do it. Now if your budget's bigger, you can start bigger. But the problem is, you really need, when you're starting out, to have some expert opinion or advice before you start buying names, because you're going to end up buying names for $1,000 that aren't worth $10, and you're going to end up buying names, if you go higher budget, for $3,000, $4,000 that aren't worth $100. So the best advice I give people at the beginning is read a ton of information that's out there before you even think about spending a dime. I mean, I don't know anything about cars, so I wouldn't go in and start buying all kinds of car parts all of a sudden thinking I could do something. So just because you read all these great stories about people who have been successful, it doesn't mean you're not going to be successful, but they didn't start out and just go out and buy sex.com and away they were. You just you gotta start small. And for those of you that think there's no time to make money in this industry, we're still in our infancy. I mean, yeah, some people like me have been in it for 20 years, we've done really well, but it's still going to be that pyramid where grandparents, again, are up here, they don't know anything about computers. Then you get your parents who may know how to work the remote control of the TV and stuff, and then you got your kids who are on their phones all the time, and wait till they have their kids and so on. It's just going to go whoosh. So we haven't even touched how the internet's going to grow. The potential for building a business online, this is a great time to build a business. It's a great time because you can get started, get set up, and in the next 5 years, the amount of growth on the internet is just massive. So everybody who's like 7, 8, 9 right now, who's just playing on their cell phones and starting to get on the internet with Instagram and nonsense, it's really going to skyrocket. There's never going to be a slow time for us on the internet. Yes, there's new GTLDs, and yes, they're good, and it's going to take the public some time to get used to them, but all the domains are always going to have value if you've got good quality content and you've got a good product or service to sell. Don't buy any domain name that you can't build a directory on. Start a service, an informational site that will help people, a product, or a business. It has to be one of those, and there has to be some reason why somebody would want to buy it from you, or you're just playing with money as a hobby and you're not building anything. Yes, sir. What do you need a mic?
I know you have inspired, to get in touch with you after the conference and to provide your portfolio to review and provide some advices. Before doing that, could you tell us something? How do you usually sell the domain names? Which are the ways you use? Is it mostly direct sales you do, and you rely on your personal contacts, or is marketplaces as well? If it is it is mostly direct sales, which is the minimum level you consider for yourself, I mean the price level, to start to work.
That's a pretty fair question. You can post, and there's no harm in posting in all of the marketplaces for your domain names. There's no harm in posting on Sato and Afternic and GoDaddy and everywhere else. But then you're just sitting there. And that's a problem that most people in the domain industry do. They just sit there and they wait and they wait and they wait. And if you do that, it's not the best way to, you're not going to get fat and rich and healthy quickly. You can make some money, and sure, I sold a lot of high-end domain names that way, but you really need to be aggressive. You need to go and beyond just sitting and waiting for people to come to you. It's kind of like opening up a store or a restaurant and telling nobody about it. Yeah, people will walk by once in a while, but you're not going to get the big crowd as if you put out a flyer.
Let me specify my question.
Sure.
Is it working now? So we own several dozens of thousands of domain names, and we do see on marketplaces like you described, because we would love to take care of each domain separately and provide some marketing for each of the domains.
Right.
For that we need maybe an office with 1,000 workers somewhere. This is not something we're really thinking of. So in order not to in order to start communicating with you, which you would like to do as far as I understand from your presentation, some guidelines from you regarding price levels that I have mentioned already in my question, I think would be useful, because if we start sending you emails with list and Excel with 20,000 domain names, you will get stuck fast, I guess.
Yeah, no, so I'll clarify some of those points. Basically, I have a couple different services. One is if you have an offer already. So let's say Jeff has an offer of $5,000 on a domain name, okay? He'll come to me and say, Adam, I've got $5,000. So then I'm not entitled to the first $5,000. But I'll tell Jeff, anything I negotiate past where you could get this client, then I'll take a percentage of it and we'll talk about it and go from there. As far as the marketplace, I'm not saying you won't sell domains on the marketplace, you will. But because, you know, obviously not everybody has the manpower to put out 1,000 domains, but because you're selling them and waiting for people, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, which I know you don't want to do. What domains would I touch to negotiate? Anything, honestly, anything, it depends on what we agree on, but usually anything over, say, $5,000.
Okay.
I mean, I can't touch them. I get people email me ridiculous junk all day that's not worth 10 cents, but even if it's a serious offer at $1,000, I'll still help do it. So, but I go through a lot of offers every day that people send me. And unfortunately, I'm straightforward with people. I tell them, look, it's not the right price. I'd rather tell people the truth than have them think they're going to make $1 million off a domain that's just junk.
So better to have a lead at first and then come to you with this lead, right?
No, I can do it both ways. I can also work on finding a buyer for them, but I prefer to handle the ones where it just needs a good negotiator.
Okay.
That way I can make you a lot more money probably than, because some people are shy. They don't even like to call people. And if you don't want to call people, you're leaving money on the table. Because I sold a big, I think we talked about it, paperbacks to Barnes & Noble, which is a huge book chain in the United States. And it's because I got to the right person, I sold it. I mean, I'm selling right now, in the next maybe few months, voiceoverip.com to Skype. But you have to get to the right people. And some people are intimidated to pick up the phone and call people.
Be really careful with them. We have an experience with Skype, and it was rather
Bad connection?
They're really tough guys, I would say. So read.
Well, they're not going to get it free.
Read every word in every document.
Oh no, don't worry. When I get to that, Paul's going to take care of it, or Jason, wherever he is. Anybody else have any? Yeah. Oh, I was just talking about you.
Question. What
Yeah.
do you do when you vouchers are
What did you say? Last question? I hate that.
That last example you gave, when you're calling somebody, what do you do when you're dealing with something that's close to a trademark, or, well, it wouldn't be exact trademark, but it's close enough that you're calling the entity and you're saying, hey, I want you to.
I don't really go close to those. Are you talking about voice over IP versus Skype?
Well, no, not that example, but you're saying
yeah.
you call an entity. Do you ever?
I really won't touch anything if it's close to a trademark. And as far as the parking companies we're talking earlier about, you should park domains with trademarks and all that crap. I don't believe that for a second. Because the penalty, and there's a couple lawyers in the room that can verify it, if you have a trademark and you're profiting off that trademark, the maximum penalty is $100,000 per domain, plus all the revenue that they think you've made off the domain, plus any revenue that they think they've lost from it. I was with a company in 2004, and Verizon sued them because they had a bunch of typos, and they ended up paying like $34 million. I left before it happened, because I decided I'm not involved in this kind of nonsense. And after I left, everybody left the company thinking, if these guys leaving, and he knows a lot, we should get the hell out. They got sued for $34 million. So any parking company tells you to park their trademarks with them, that's a no-no for me. I would just say delete and goodbye. It's not worth holding on to, believe me. Anything with a trademark can only get you in trouble, and any pennies you think you're going to make off it, it causes you lots of aggravation. Not worth it.
Absolutely, that's.
And any lawyer or anybody who's been in this business and seen all these trademark letters go back and forth know what kind of trouble you can get in. Not worth it. Yep.
How much?
One more.
How much content do you buy?
Oh, he's gonna give you a microphone.
How much content do you buy when you
Build a website?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two types of websites. There's what's called a niche website, which could be something on anything, a knee brace or something like that, some product. And then there's an authority website. An authority website is usually the biggest site you can. An authority website usually has hundreds of pages, and that is the site that everyone would go to in that particular industry or that field or that science to go to find information. there's a site that a buddy of mine built. I think it's called How to Clean Everything. And it was just a stupid little site he started, and now it's major traffic and it's got everything, how to clean everything. So if you're gonna build a site like that, you want an authority site, which should be over 100 plus pages, 100 to 500. But if you're just building a niche site or a lead gen site, it doesn't need to have more than 10 pages. Now, I'm done because he's gonna get me out of here, but anybody have any questions or anything after here, find me, don't be shy, please. And don't forget to go to adamdicker.com to get your tools. It's adamdicker.com/tools to get everything I talked about, plus about another 50 other tools by Thursday. And also, if you want consulting, it's at the bottom of adamdicker.com. The first 5 can get it for 50% off. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm also very sorry to Thank you very much.
My pleasure, guys. My pleasure.
I have a suggestion. Maybe next year we can add one day and you make some workshops.
That's what NamesCon's doing for me next year, and that's what Traffic does all the time.
Okay, so we do it here also.
Does that mean I have to come back?
Yeah, sure.